The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, received on Wednesday at the headquarters of the Presidency the credentials of 4 ambassadors accredited to Algeria. The President received the credentials of the Ambassador of Malaysia, His Excellency Mohammed Faisal Razali. After the ceremony granted to him by the President of the Republic, the Malaysian ambassador to Algeria said, quote, "I presented my credentials today as ambassador to Algeria and had the honor to be received by the President of the Republic. During this audience, we discussed several issues such as the strengthening of bilateral relations between Algeria and Malaysia, especially in the economic and social fields, and the relations between the citizens of the two countries. We hope to explore the potential that exists in Algeria and invest in several sectors. I would like to thank the President of the Republic and the Minister of Foreign Affairs for all their efforts to consolidate the position of the Malaysian Embassy in Algeria." End of quote. The President of the Republic also received the credentials of the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Sweden, His Excellency Björn Högmark. After the ceremony granted to him by the President of the Republic, the Swedish ambassador said, quote, "I am very pleased and honored to be received today by the President of the Algerian Republic. I have just handed over to him, on behalf of His Majesty Carl XVI Gustaf, King of Sweden, the letter of recall of my predecessor, as well as the letter of accreditation, by which I am appointed as Ambassador of Sweden to Algeria. It is a pride for me to present Sweden in Algeria for the years to come. This meeting has allowed me to congratulate myself on the excellent long-standing relations between our two countries. I will do my best to strengthen the deep and long-standing friendship between Sweden and Algeria and their peoples. Algeria is an important historical partner for Sweden in North Africa. During my audience, I had the pleasure to discuss several areas of deepening Swedish-Algerian relations. I would like to mention in particular international relations with the objective of peace and conflict prevention, a strong multilateral system anchored in the United Nations, economic relations as a driver of growth and employment, for which continuous reforms are needed to diversify and modernize the economy. Culture, with the expression of effective voices and opinions, opens doors to dialogue and exchange between individuals and countries. Ultimately, the prospects for a peaceful and better future that is inclusive and egalitarian between women and men, and in which the interests of young people are taken into account. Sweden is a member of the European meeting. We attach importance to the implementation of the European neighborhood policy. These efforts, with the active participation of Algeria, will undoubtedly contribute to building a promising future both in Algeria and in Sweden. End of quote. The President of the Republic also received the credentials of His Excellency the Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Abdullah bin Nasser Abdullah Al-Basiri. In a keynote to the press, he said, quote, "I was honored to present my credentials to the President of the Algerian Republic as Ambassador of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Delegate of the Custodian of the Holy Places of Islam. During this audience, I conveyed the greetings and tributes of King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud and those of the Crown Prince, Vice President of the Council of Ministers, Minister of National Defense Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, to His Excellency and the brotherly Algerian people. During this audience, we emphasized the depth of relations between our two brotherly countries at all levels. It is worth remembering today the visit of our Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to Algeria in December 2018 and the visit of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Algeria to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in February 2020. These were followed by several other visits by the foreign ministers of the two countries. The latest is the visit of Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, Minister of Foreign Affairs, on Tuesday, and his meeting with the Algerian President. All these visits are aimed at serving bilateral relations and the interest of both countries in the development of these relations, as well as the continuous consultation in order to serve Arab and Muslim interests. Finally, I wish the dear Algeria people development and prosperity." End of quote. The President of the Republic also received the credentials of His Excellency the Ambassador Head of the European Union Delegation to Algeria, Thomas Eckert. In a keynote to the press, the ambassador said, quote, "I'm very happy to take up my duties as Ambassador of the European Union to Algeria. It is a very important task and I will commit myself to a growing partnership between Algeria and the European Union. There are many joint projects that have a great potential that must be seized. I have just spoken with the President of the Republic to discuss in great detail the common projects to come, either in terms of investment in the future or a resolution of our trade challenges or in a very important area of migration. There are other projects in other areas that are also important, but the three priorities I have just mentioned are already on the agenda of the coming months. End of quote. The ceremony took place in the presence of Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Mtalla Mamra and Cabinet Director of the Presidency of the Republic, Nordin Baghdad Daij.
The President of the Republic decided to decree the date of September 15th, which coincides with the anniversary of the death of the eminent Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir, as a National Day of the Imam. The announcement was made this Wednesday in Adrar province in a message from the President of the Republic, read on his behalf by the Religious Affairs and Endowments Minister Yusuf Belmehdi at the proceedings of the 19th edition of the National Conference dedicated to the memory of Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir. It is from our mosque and our zawiyas or Quranic schools that the caravans of mujahideen and martyrs departed, starting with the blessed popular uprising until the glorious war of the national liberation. The efforts of our valiant imams thwarted the plans aimed at tearing our country apart by facing all the shenanigans, while after independence and the recovery of the national sovereignty, the imam went willingly and freely to the battle of enlightenment to establish moderation and ban exaggeration and fundamentalism. He was devoted to the moralization of social life, to spreading virtue, facing all crises, and helping to extinguish the fires of discord that the enemies wanted to stir up each time. This decision by the President of the Republic to establish the day of September 15th as the National Day of the Algerian Imam comes in recognition of the efforts of the deceased. Convinced that the mosque is a social institution built by the society to be an essential partner in the concretization of its inclusive and lasting development, the children of this homeland and its institutions competed for the maintaining and the preservation of these religious buildings. To affirm this conviction, the Mosque of Algiers was built to be a civilizational beacon and a guide for the mosques of all the provinces in the country. It would organize as well as the activities carried out by imams in the Mosque of the Republic, recognizing the efforts of the late Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir, and in consideration of the status of the Imam and the place he occupied in society, we decided to decree the date of September 15th, a National Day of the Imam, for its symbolism and a civilizational project in regards to the contributions of Sheikh Belkbir in the building of the country and the training of several generations. The President of the Republic also highlighted the role of the Imam in consideration of the status of the Imam and the importance of the place he occupies within the society. Worthy heir to the predecessors among our ulamas, sheikhs and eminent imams who have marked the scientific and cultural history of Algeria, it is no surprise then that Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir enjoys a great popularity in this blessed land. It is important to evoke the symbolism of Imam Belkbir within the society, being a reference for his culture and his identity.
The late Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir was one of the most eminent Algerian religious figures. He devoted his entire life to the quest of knowledge and teaching the Holy Quran.
We started readings from the Holy Quran for the celebration of the 21st anniversary of the Sheikh's death. This commemorative event is placed under the high patronage of the President of the Republic, who wished to make it a special symbol for all Algerians, because he remains an immutable reference in religious education, training and fiqh.
Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir's lineage dates back to the third caliphate of Uthman bin Affan, who was born in Al-Ghammara in Adrar province.
This celebration is very dear to us. The Sheikh always reiterated that the best of us is the one who learns the Quran and teaches it to others.
Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir remains to this day one of the great emblematic figures of the region and the country. He is known for his social, human and religious values. On the sidelines of the 19th National Forum commemorating the death of Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Belkbir, the Religious Affairs Minister Yusuf Belmehdi, as well as the participating delegation, visited Zawiyat Sheikh Sidi Mohammed Didi in the municipality of Tamantit, where explanations were presented to visitors on this religious and scientific relic.
The interventions of MPs at the National People's Assembly focused on the third day of the debating sessions of the government's action plan presented by the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, Ayman bin Abdurrahman, on the economic situation that the country is going through and its effect on the social front, where it's imperative to take urgent measures to improve the purchasing power of the citizens. MPs in the majority are in favor of reviewing the prices of certain basic necessities, sharply rising, which threatens the purchasing power of ordinary citizens. MPs welcomed the overall vision of this action plan while applying to promote the interest of citizens and strengthen their purchasing power to guarantee them a decent life. MPs also pleaded in favor of an increase in wages in view of the economic situation and the surge in prices, calling for the revision of the salary scale and the guaranteed minimum national wage.
Foreign Affairs Minister Mpal Amamra received on Wednesday his Indian counterpart, Shrifi Malawi Drahan, at the Foreign Affairs Ministry's headquarters. The two parties held a working session where they discussed ways and means to strengthen bilateral relations between Algeria and India, as well as issues of common interest. I've held talks with the Algerian Foreign Affairs Minister as well as the Secretary General. We discussed the bilateral relations and exchanged views about the regional and international issues of common interest. This visit came after a long time, but I believe that the historical relations between the two countries are strong. We also mentioned the Algerian-Indian Bilateral Committee, which will be held in New Delhi. The Indian Foreign Affairs Minister also met with the Foreign Affairs Ministry's General Secretary, Shakib Rashid Qayed. The two parties held a working session where they discussed the political, economic and security sectors in order to consolidate consultation and coordination between Algeria and its partners from different countries. A conference was organized at the National Institute for Global Strategy Studies in the presence of Professor Tablit Ali, a writer and researcher specialized in history. The meeting focused on the relationship between Algeria and the United States during the Ottoman period, knowing that this relationship has been going on for the past 226 years.
The relationship between the two countries began on the 5th of September 1795. A date on which Algeria recognized the independence of the United States. The Americans had previously sent several correspondents to call Algeria to recognize their independence. Once done, they sent several consulates to the country.
It is worth mentioning that Professor Tabli devoted more than 40 years of his life to research and collect information to reconstruct the history of Algeria. We must commemorate the history of Algeria and its heritage. Algeria has diplomatic relations with several countries around the world, including France and Spain. To safeguard the history of Algeria, there must be more researchers and specialists in this field. It requires a lot of work. The event's main objective was to recall and commemorate Algeria's history and its journey through several centuries.
The National Economic, Social and Environmental Council, CNESE, has organized on Wednesday in Algiers a meeting on the pharmaceutical industry and patents. This meeting was an opportunity for the participants to discuss the development dynamics of this sector, in particular in the research, development and technological aspects related to the exploitation of patents. The purpose of this meeting is to agree on an operative mode that can contribute to the establishment of a national quality assurance system for medication meeting international standards, aiming to achieve the sovereignty and health security of our country by ensuring fair access to the medicine and moving towards export, as was reiterated by the President of the Republic.
242 new confirmed cases of coronavirus and 16 new deaths were recorded during the last 24 hours in Algeria, while 176 people have recovered and have been discharged. This was announced by the Ministry of Health, Population and Hospital Reform.
As part of the fight against terrorism, the joint forces of the People's National Army stopped 4 elements of support for terrorist groups in separate operations across the national territory. And in the context of combating organized crime and continuing the relentless efforts aimed at confronting the scourge of drug dealers in our country, the joint forces of the National People's Army, in coordination with various security services in the 2nd and 3rd military regions, thwarted attempts to bring in large quantities of drugs across the border with Morocco, estimated at 12 quintals and 63 kilograms of treated cannabis and 500 grams of cocaine, while 15 drug dealers were arrested and 19,471 hallucinogenic tablets were seized during various operations across other military regions. On the other hand, detachments of the People's National Army in Tamanrasset, Ingizam, Burj Baji Mukhtar and Janat arrested 163 people and seized 5 vehicles, 225 electric generators, 92 pressure hammers, a quantity of explosives, detonation equipment, and other equipment used in illegal gold mining. In addition to 7 mixtures of raw gold and stones, 3 hunting rifles and 51 quintals of tobacco were seized in Batna, Satif, Al-Wadi and Biskra. Attempts to smuggle 16,523 litres of fuel were also thwarted into Bessa, At-Taraf, Suqaras, Janat and Tamanrast. In another context, the Coast Guards managed to foil illegal immigration attempts on our national coast for 354 people who were on board traditionally made boats. 32 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested in Tlemcen, Ghardaya, Al-Wad and Laghwat.
The units of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army carried out new attacks on Tuesday against the sites of the Moroccan occupation soldiers in the sectors of Smara, Al-Bakari and Farsiya, according to the military statement number 307 of the Sahrawi Ministry of Defense. The Zionist occupation forces exploits every occasion to harass and make life difficult for Palestinians in the West Bank, namely in Al-Quds and in the Gaza Strip, by imposing illegal measures on the Palestinians. According to a Palestinian news agency, the Zionist occupation forces visited the office of the General Union of Workers in the service sector and liberal professions in the center of Ramallah, as a result of which clashes erupted in several neighborhoods of Ramallah and Al-Bira. As for the current health situation in the world, more than 4,500,000 people have lost their lives since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The countries that recorded the most recent deaths are namely the United States, Mexico, and Russia. More than 225,000 cases of contamination have been officially diagnosed. Moving on to the UN. The United Nations called on for a moratorium on certain artificial intelligence systems such as facial recognition and set up safeguards to protect human privacy, freedom and rights, and also ban or regulate strongly those that present the greatest danger.